Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next bite-sized lecture for MN3000, in which we're going to be looking at the principles of project management over the next 45 minutes or so. So, project management, a lot of people see it as a bit of a dark art, and think that it's something that you have to be highly trained to do, and only experienced project managers can do it in these little project management offices that nobody really knows what's happening in. But project management is used in all industries at all levels. So from a cleaning industry or building industry, through healthcare, all the way through to extremely high-tech applications. Project management is used to make sure that a task is completed and managed as efficiently as possible. So why do we do it? So there's a number of reasons that we do project management. The first one is to learn from lessons, the success and the mistakes of others. So going through a process similar to what you're going to be going through as this module progresses, of reflecting on what has gone well, what hasn't gone so well, and what you can do differently next time, is one of the founding principles underpinning successful project management. So it actually helps in a number of different ways from an organisational perspective. So understanding the financial, physical and human resources, but then taking those resources in order to, as it says there, improve customer relations, have shorter development and delivery times, and have significant impact on the financial aspects of the business, such as costs, productivity, and also therefore reliability and quality. It provides a number of different elements, such as internal coordination and higher worker morale as part of that as well. And this is something that the Hawthorne experiments went on to look at and develop. And a lot of management theory is actually based on or closely aligned to project management theory. So control is another angle that we need to consider when looking at project management. So control of those resources that I mentioned, accountability as well, in order to ascertain financial efficiency, and learning from the mistakes of others, as mentioned previously. Improved customer relations is a key element to not only maintaining business at a particular level, but also growing the business as well. So it has an impact on that element of the business. Improved productivity, better internal coordination and higher worker morale, as we've already mentioned, are more managed outcomes that are going to have a positive impact on the way the business operates and the way the business develops. Projects fail, and failure a lot of the time is not a bad thing, because it's something that we can learn from. But we need to understand why projects do actually fail. So right at the top of the list there is communication. So if everyone within the organisation is not aligned in terms of what the desired outcome is for the project, and that comes down to poor communications, then the project will undoubtedly fail. Scope creep is something that tends to happen quite a lot. The scope of the project is what, in a focused way, you are trying to achieve. When the scope creeps, in other words, other elements come in, or the initiative is taken away from that project, or something comes along that takes your vision away from what you're trying to achieve, that is scope creep. Poor planning, so not having a plan in place, not having objectives that are smart, not having tools in place to manage these resources and the timescales that you are looking at, will undoubtedly cause the project to fail. Having a weak business case. So why are we doing it in the first place? Are people bought into that reason? Is this something that is going to have a positive impact on the organisation? Lack of management direction and involvement. So poor management on behalf of the project manager, but also not having the buy-in from senior management to develop that project and drive it forward. Incomplete specifications. That is an absolute killer, really, because unless people know what they are doing within the project and the reasoning behind it, then it will fail. And mismanagement of expectations. So over simplifying what needs to be done on one end, and giving people unrealistic expectations of what to achieve or what time and resources actually needed to complete the project efficiently will also cause the project to fail. You may also hear the term program, especially if you're working within a larger organisation. So what is the difference between a project and a program? Well, a project is temporary, it's unique, it has a beginning and an end, a defined beginning and an end, and a unique purpose. So as we've already said, it requires resources, and those resources are used to complete that project and to move it forward. A note there, temporary does not necessarily mean short in duration. A project can last many years and change in its approach and in its scope over a period of that time. So it doesn't have to necessarily be something that only lasts a week or a few weeks. So a program, on the other hand, is a collection of projects that are actually pulled together to drive an organisation forward or in a particular direction. They tend to be longer term, and they tend to have a collective focus. So, for instance, a bank or building society may have a program that looks at using the internet to develop a relationship with the customer. Organisational and internet banking may be a project within that program. Face-to-face consultations may be another project within that program. With a project, you have to bear in mind what we call the triple constraints theory, and these are all factors, forces that pull in opposite directions to basically try and pull the project off kilter. So it's constrained in three ways, and you want to think about it as a balloon that's being held by three strings, and they're all trying to pull that balloon in their own direction. Those three particular areas are the scope, the cost, and the time. And what we are trying to do is to make sure that we balance all these effectively. And this is one of the first things that you're going to have to look at when you are developing your project, is to think about these theories, these elements. So you've obviously got the scope. So the scope is, what is the project trying to accomplish? You've got to manage that to make sure that scope doesn't creep and get too large. The time goals. So you've obviously got other modules that you're working on as well. So there needs to be a defined time that you will be working on this, and we know when this project should be completed. So you need to work alongside that. The cost goals are the other elements. So what's it actually going to cost to get this project complete? Now, a lot of the projects that you're working on are just a consultative advisory capacity, but some projects may have a budget that is allocated by the business to you for setting up a website or setting up social media or whatever. Okay, and it's the manager's duty or the team's duty in this instance to balance these three competing goals. The framework is quite simple, and it's a linear framework. And we start off on one side with the stakeholders' needs and expectations. So the people who are commissioning the project, what are they trying to achieve? What are they looking for? And what does success look like to them? Then at the other end, we have the defined project success. So the end of the project, when something has been delivered, and that is within scope, within cost, and within time. So that triple constraint. So there's a number of functions that are delivered and drive into the project integration management framework. So managing the scope, the time and the cost, so our triple constraint are part of the core functions, along with quality, so making sure that what we do is correct, and everything that we provide is of quality. There's facilitating functions that feed into the integration framework as well. So human resources, certainly if we're working on larger projects, communications, risk, so what happens if something goes wrong, how do we reevaluate that, and procurement management as well. So if we are building a large block of flats, for instance, then the procurement management is going to look at that to make sure that the costs do not spiral out of control. We take all of those and the various different tools and techniques, some of which I'm going to describe to you in a minute, and that is the integration of all of those functions to enable project success. So who are the stakeholders at the very start of this? Stakeholders are, as it says there, people involved in or affected by project activities. They can include a wide range of people. So they can include the project sponsor and the project team, those who are facilitating the project or have actually specified the project. There's support staff, customers, users, suppliers and vendors, so people that are outside of the organisation, and even opponents to the project can be stakeholders. A lot of the time they are stakeholders in trying to get the project either shelved or stopped, but they do have an impact and an input into the way that the project is managed and run. The knowledge areas that we need to consider as well are the core knowledge areas, as we've spoken about, and the facilitating knowledge areas as well. But also we need to understand what is happening in all of these areas with a snapshot view, a snapshot approach. So the project manager and the team need to have an overall idea of what is happening within the various different functional areas of the project. And that is why you should be having meetings on a regular basis as a team, minuting those meetings, looking for areas that you are responsible for and accountable for, and feeding that back into the project. It has relationship to other disciplines as well. So certainly in larger organisations that have project management or dedicated project management teams, the knowledge and the practice is equally as important to the general management function of the business. So the financial areas, the human resource areas, marketing, sales, etc. And the application area as well. So what is it that the organisation as a whole is trying to achieve? Tools and techniques, there's various different tools and techniques out there, but what I'm going to do is to just go over a few of the more important ones and some of the ones that you'll want to look at to develop your plans, certainly the first assessment. So the first thing to understand is that the number one aim of a project management tool is to communicate with people. So that could be the project communicating to the project management team so that they have a helicopter view of what is actually happening, but also communicating with other stakeholders as well. Project charter and work breakdown structure is one area, and it's specifically used for scoping a project and finding out exactly what the deliverables of that project are likely to be. Gantt charts, my favourite one to be honest, are Gantt charts. This is a graphical representation that allows you to see exactly what is happening within the project, how different tasks within the project interact with each other. And lastly, earned value management and cost estimates. Certainly if you are working on a project that is trying to either minimise costs or maximise profitability within a business, it's good to have an understanding of what the cost of the project is potentially, and how that's going to have an impact in terms of return on investment. So there's a very, very simple Gantt chart. What we can see there on the left hand column, and these can actually be done in a spreadsheet format, or there are various different project management tools that you can download, but the basis is very similar to a spreadsheet. So in the left hand column there we've got the ID, so each task has its own specific ID, okay, so that if we're talking about task number 4, everybody knows that we're talking about the case management, okay. The task name then is important, and you'll notice that that some of those are bold, and the reason for that is that they are the main overriding section within that project. Okay, so we've got capture existing as the first major task, and we've got the cleanup as the second major task. So that's from task ID 9 all the way through to 11. If you look at the graphical representation, then we've got various different weeks, and this can be days or hours or months or whatever. Okay, and a lot of project management tools will allow you to play around with the timing schedule to either stretch out the project or compress it so that you can see overall what is happening. So what we've got there is the black boxes show the overriding tasks and how one leads into another, as you can see there from the black arrow. Each of the blue tasks then are the tasks that are going to help you to achieve the overall bold task. So we need to, if we look at this as an example, we need to capture the existing structure before we move on to capturing the company and the case management. Once we've completed all of those, then the capture existing task will be complete and will feed in then to the cleanup. So as you can see, we can see exactly where we need to be on the various different tasks, and exactly where we need to be on the elements, the objectives within that. A network diagram is very much like a mind map, where we are looking at the relationships between the various different tasks, what affects what needs to be completed before you actually move on to the next. This is quite a visual representation, and it does really show you exactly how a program, the roadmap that a program should actually take. Earned value is looking at the plan value for the project. So we're looking at cumulative values against time. The plan value is a curve, as we've seen there. The actual costs and the earned value are elements that will affect that plan value curve. So at any point in time, we can look at that plan value curve, look at what the actual costs are, and make sure that in terms of financial constraints, we are keeping the project online and on time and within budget. So, bit of a whistle-stop tour there, just to summarise this, and your supervisors will be talking to you certainly about Gantt charts and about your plans. A project is a one-time element as opposed to a repetitive activity. So it's something that is done once. Project management is the facilitation and planning and scheduling of those activities to meet the project aims overall. Okay, so there's no rocket science to it. It's just about making sure that we are fully on top of all of our resources in order to drive the project forward in the right direction and to complete it within the three constraints that we've spoken about earlier. Those three constraints: cost, time, and scope. There is a relationship. It's not magic, so it must be managed. In other words, if you just leave these things to tick over by themselves, then one will win out over the other, and that will cause issues within the project. To reduce both time and cost within a project, you have to change the way that you work and understand and control the project, driving it forward. If you get it right, and this is what we're hoping you're going to do over the course of the project, it will have a positive impact in terms of financial for the organisations that you're working with, and it will also make them more efficient in terms of the resources that they actually have and control. This really leads into what James Lewis called the 5 phases methodology behind project management, and what in 5 steps we are trying to achieve by developing our project and running the project efficiently. So we're defining what we need to do is the first stage. We're putting a strategy in place to plan for that project. Okay, so maybe a Gantt chart, maybe a network diagram. It's maybe a resource allocation model like RACI. We look at how we implement that planning and execute and control it. So that's really what we're going to be looking at within the second semester, is how you can have an impact on this organisation by helping them to deliver against those objectives. And last but not least, what has gone wrong? No project is entirely successful. There will always be lessons learned, and just as you are going to be doing individual reflections, part of your report at the end of the year will be looking at the lessons learned. What went well? What didn't go so well? What are the future projects that could stem from what you have actually done? Okay, and it is well worth having a look at that textbook there, Project Planning, Scheduling and Control. And looking at the Lewis method in a bit more detail. Some sources there for you to have a look at. Project Management Institute and Project World have a number of different downloads of various different models that you can have a look at. Software Program Managers Network does as well. Have a look. Just do a Google search on project management tools, and you'll be surprised what you can actually find. Okay, and again, Project Plan, Schedule and Control, a hands-on guide to bringing projects on time and on budget, is well worth a read. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck, and look forward to speaking to you soon.